The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 1, The Fall. Chapter 9. Both Tal and Ethar stepped back from the table as the final cards were played. Although no one knew how to make Beastmaker boards anymore, everyone had heard about the one that exploded years before, every sunstone in it suddenly igniting. But this Beastmaker board seemed to work perfectly. The cards in their rectangles began to slowly grow brighter and brighter, and a luminous mist formed on each side of the table. Then the two clouds of mist drifted across to the battle circle in the middle of the table and began to form into shapes. Tal held his breath, wondering what his beast would look like. Inside his head he urged the formless lump of bright mist on, willing it to be the best beast ever made, a champion that would win his entry to see the Empress. Soon all his troubles could be over. Then his cloud of bright mist solidified into a brightly colored beast. It was tall and slender, and had the general shape of a lizard, except it stood up on its hind legs and had wings. Its skin was scaly and iridescent, sparkling in many different colors. Its huge, delicate-looking wings were also multicolored and almost translucent. It was pretty. It was even beautiful, but didn't look at all tough or dangerous. Tal let out his breath in disappointment and shut his eyes. He didn't want to look at the opposing beast, which had also solidified out of the glowing ball of mist on the other side of the circle. "Interesting," said Ethar in a puzzled tone. Tal opened one eye a fraction. Ethar's beast was really ugly. It resembled a blubbery, rust-colored ball that had 3 arm legs coming out of the top and 3 out of the bottom. It had 4 pairs of eyes spaced around its middle, and a separate, many-toothed mouth under each pair of eyes. As Tal watched, it flipped over onto its top legs, and then flipped back again, very quickly. Then it deliberately fell back and actually bounced high into the air without using its arm legs at all. Tal's beast just watched the bouncy ball thing and stood there, its wings flickering like a hummingbird's. It was only when Tal looked closely that he realized it wasn't standing, it was hovering an inch above the white marble of the battle circle. The battle circle began to change color from white marble to red, the signal that the combat would commence. Tal took a step closer, as did Ethar and all the guards, who crowded around. Quickly, Tal looked over at Ethar's cards, hoping he would see some flaw that his beast would exploit. Ethar had played the head of a Dauphin, which was fairly standard play, since the Dauphins were the enormously clever sea-dwellers of Einir. Then the heart of a Nymphaean ape, the temper of a Vengnarl, the skin of a Blorum, which as far as Tal could remember would give the beast a skin of very resilient, thick blubber, the speed of a Fleamite, the strength of a Jargul, and finally, the special of an Urgle-Gurgle. Tal had no idea what that was, but now that he'd seen the made beast, he figured it had to be bouncing. The battle circle flashed red 3 times. On the 3rd flash, Tal's lizard suddenly shot forward, just as Ethar's blubber tub bounced. They met in a whirring of wings, teeth, and clawed arms, or legs, and parted just as quickly. "By the light! A hit!" cried Ethar, pointing to the drops of bright emerald-green blood that were welling out of the lizard beast's forearms. "Mine too," said Tal, pointing at some ugly gashes in the blubber of the bouncing beast. But his heart sank, for the blubber was very thick, and the gashes did not look deep. Before Tal had finished speaking, the blubber tub attacked again, acting on its Vengnarl temper. This time, the lizard beast didn't meet it, but flew to one side, zipping and darting around in the air as the blubber tub bounced and lunged, reaching out its multiple arm legs to grab and rend. The lizard beast was too quick to be caught, but the blubber tub was also too quick for it to easily strike. They bounced and flew, feinting attacks and withdrawals, moving so swiftly it was almost impossible to follow. Then the lizard thing suddenly swooped in and bit out the blubber tub's eye. It shrieked in rage, the first sound either beast had made, and one of its 3-fingered limbs gripped the very edge of the lizard beast's wing. There was a tearing sound, and part of the wing came off. The lizard beast leaped back, but clearly it could no longer fly. "No!" Tal groaned. The lizard beast made a yipping sound to taunt the blubber tub on, as if it didn't care about its torn wing. The blubber tub, its eye socket bleeding, threw itself back and then bounced forward to crush its opponent. But even without wings, the lizard beast was very fast. It zipped sideways, and a claw struck in to take out another of the blubber tub's eyes. Furious, the great ball of blubber changed direction to hurl itself at the rainbow-colored lizard. Once again, the lizard beast got out of the way, just in time. Then it suddenly moved back, as the blubber tub was changing direction, and bit the bulbous creature on the foot. "Yes!" shouted Tal, punching the air. The lizard had bitten clean through the blubber tub's leg, severing the foot. It still had two on that side, though, and one of the other legs swung across, smacking the lizard in the head. The brightly colored beast was thrown halfway across the circle by the blow and seemed to be stunned. It lay there, unmoving, while the blubber tub did a flip to get back on the three good legs on its other side. "Get up! Go, lizard!" yelled Tal. "Kill it!" shouted Ethar. The other guards shouted too, some encouraging Tal's beast, some encouraging Ethar's. Slowly and murderously the blubber tub advanced on the motionless lizard. Then it started to bounce. A small bounce, then a slightly harder one, until it was bounding up a quarter stretch or more. With each bounce it got closer and closer to the defenseless lizard. It clearly intended to crush Tal's beast to death. Tal looked on, horrified. Even though the creatures were only created things of magical light, he couldn't bear to see his lizard killed. He stopped thinking about everything that depended on this little beast of many colors. He just wanted it to survive. As the blubber tub shot up for what had to be its final bounce, Tal shut his eyes. He felt sick. Everything was over now. Suddenly the guards roared, but it was a shout of surprise, not triumph, from Ethar. Tal's eyes flashed open and saw the lizard beast flying around a stunned blubber tub, darting in to plug out its eyes one by one. "What happened?" he asked one of the guards who had been betting on his lizard. "It tricked the blubber thing," said the guard happily. "That lizard's got 4 or 5 layers of wing. It could still fly, and it wasn't knocked out. Smart beast, kid." But despite losing more of its eyes, the battle was not yet over for the blubber tub. It had the heart of a Nymphaean ape, so it could not give up. Bleeding from a dozen wounds, it lurched after the lizard, chasing it around and around the battle circle. "Only a matter of time now, boy," said the friendly guard. "Well—" Whatever the guard was going to say stopped in his throat, as the far door suddenly swung open with the screech of disused hinges. Like everyone else, Tal looked over. Something huge and very, very dark was coming through the door. A spirit shadow, Tal realized, but one bigger than he'd ever seen. Its head was all spikes and flanges, as wide and tall as the door, so it struggled to get through. A sinuous neck followed, but whatever body lay behind was too big, unless the spirit shadow chose to shrink it. Suddenly, Tal realized he was the only one still standing up. All the guards had fallen to their knees and were bowing in the spirit shadow's direction. Tal stood there gawping, till his shadow guard reached up and pulled him down by the front of his tunic. Only then did he realize what, or who, this spirit shadow was. It had to be Sharakor the Mighty, the Empress's own spirit shadow. The spirit dragon that alone among its kind had a name. Sharakor's vast head reared up on its serpentine neck, and its jaws opened. Tal saw teeth of shadow and swirling patterns of darkness. Then Sharakor spat a great glob of shadow that fizzed through the air, straight at Tal.